All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here with the Congresswoman's next monthly webinar series. I am joined by Jason Phelps, our Constituent Services Director, who also oversees the Academy Committee process for the Congresswoman. He will be presenting today on a basic 101 over the Academy nomination process, what our office does with that, and more information as needed. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted to the Congresswoman's website at a later date. If anybody misses any information, they can go to tenny.house.gov and find our monthly webinar series, and there will be the recording there. It will take a few days for that to post, so just bear with us. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask us by connecting with one of our district offices. With that, I will hand the reins over to you, Jason. Please just let me know when to get to the next slides.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it and your help with this and all the help with these webinars. Our quality of represent the Congressman represent this district. And also thank you to Emma Thompson in our office for helping presentation. This is the Academy process is very important to Congresswoman Tenney. Really, if you think about it, besides world-class education at world-class institutions ranked very high in U.S. News and World Reports for science, technology, engineering, and math. Really, besides the education you're getting, you're going to commission as an officer in the military. You graduate from one of these institutions. So really, the people that are going to, from this district, going in academies and are fortunate to get an appointment are going to be the next generation of our commanders in the military. So it's a very important process. On the flip side of that, the Congresswoman's in a very unique position because she's been on both sides of this process as a parent and as someone that can nominate students to the Academy. Her son, Wayne Cleary III, also known as Trey, as a 2013 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. He commissioned the United States Marine Corps upon graduation, finished his active duty time, and now is in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserve. So, Mike, we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so there are 5 military service academies: the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, New York, the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, the U.S. Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs, Colorado, the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point, New York, and the U.S. Coast Guard Academy at New London, Connecticut. We'll talk a little bit later about the Coast Guard Academy. That's a little when it comes to federal academies. For this district, we're fortunate that most, except for the exception of the Air Force Academy, are within a reasonable driving distance to this area. Really would encourage you to set up a visit at one of the academies if it's something you're interested in, or talking to a current student or a recent student that may have gone to the academy in the area, or reach out to one of the Blue and Gold or Field Force officers for one of the academies. There also will be some events, either virtually or in person, in the area in the next few weeks for service type, like this college type fair for the academies, and that's also a great experience for you to get to know the academy process and understand what it may be for your education. Next slide, please. Just be some background on nominations and how a nomination is given. So members of Congress can nominate applicants who meet the eligibility requirements by law. Typically, a candidate can seek a nomination from a member of the House from their district, and really you have to reside in the district. Now, there is a caveat to that. If you're active duty military that are stationed overseas, but your home record is here, or if you go to a prep school or college, if you're an older student out of state, but your home record still here, you can seek a nomination through a congressperson, Congressman Tenney. You can certainly go to either Senator Gilmore or Senator Schumer for the state, and also the office of the vice president does nominations as well. Next slide, please. This is some basic eligibility requirements. A lot of this you can find online at the academies as well, but it's good just to get a refresher. Must be at least 17, but not older than 23. Must be a United States citizen. We did have an issue a few years ago for a student that was not yet a citizen. She was born overseas, but was not old enough to to be natural to seek citizenship on her own as of yet. So she had to actually go to prep school, the Naval Academy prep school for a year and applied for a nomination. To get in. So that does happen. You must be unmarried, not pregnant, and not have obligations for dependent or child. Must reside, obviously, we talked about earlier, in the 24th Congressional District or the state level. And you have to meet the medical and physical requirements for the academy. That's pretty standard. That is something called the Department of Defense Medical Evaluation Board that does the review for all the academies. They have a set medical criteria there. There's a waiver process. If there's an issue that does come up, and that does happen from time to time. But for our process at the congressional level, we generally do not get involved in the medical part. That should be professionals. So, next slide, please. So who can be nominated? You can seek a nomination. This usually happens in the early part of the year. You have to at least be a junior in high school. You also can be out of school. We've had those who've gone to college, they've reached out, and also those military who's reached out a couple of years after school, but as long as you're under 23 at the time of reporting. If you're interested in that, you can go to our website, tenney.house.gov. At the top under services, there will be a section of military academy nominations, or you can call our Oswego district office at 315-236-7088. And that includes an application packet, which is an application and letter of recommendation form, a checklist for the students to make sure they have what's needed, an informational letter that basically solves for our academy. Really, when on our end, with the Congresswoman's end, we're looking for students to be nominated. It's really a whole student concept, and the academies do this as well, where we're not just looking at academic achievements, which is important. Obviously, they're very competitive schools for academics, but they're also looking at physical aptitude, sports, or being physically active, leadership skills, extracurricular activities, character motivation. And also, we do live in a rural district, so there in some schools may not have some of the opportunities as others when it comes to AP courses or extracurriculars. And the committee also will weigh those that may work or may do some volunteer work. So that's not going to be held against you if you as your situation involves where you need to do more work and you don't have as much time to do sports or extracurricular activities. The committee will weight that pretty heavily, just due to the fact that it shows maturity and responsibility at every young age. Next slide, please. So how to apply for a nomination? As we talked about, the application student checklist can be found on the Congresswoman's website, or you can reach out to our office and certainly email into directly. Our deadline for this year is actually October 11th, so it's a couple of weeks. But so after the applications are received, we'll be doing an interview with each student. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So we'll be doing an interview for the Command Academy. So just a little bit, and this is on our website as well, to provide a photo, which is just to help the academy after they do the interview to kind of put a face to the name. It's their high school transcripts, including which is not on there, including the list of what classes you're taking here, ACT or SAT results. And I know that's something that a lot of the academies are kind of not putting a lot of weight on. It is important, but they also do a super score where they'll take the best. For say the SAT, for example, they'll take the best reading score, the best math score if you've taken it multiple times. We do require an essay, which is something that the committee likes to see, which basically talks about your motivations. Not only go to this academy for your education, but also to serve as an officer in the military. And they also require 3 letters of recommendation. We'd usually encourage at least one of those letters of recommendation to be someone that knows you from an academic setting, like a principal, a counselor, a teacher, something along those lines that can kind of test your academic record. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, our deadline is coming up. It will be a close of business on October 11th, 2023. We really try not to make any exceptions, just due to the fact that we do have some tight time. There's a lot of moving parts of coordinating student schedules in our committee schedules. And so but if there is an issue, you certainly can call us. We have had packets in the past where there's been an issue where the student has asked for a letter of recommendation, but not able to packet, and we don't want to penalize the student if that's the record there's someone playing it, but that's very rare. I will say most students are very proactive, making sure everything is set. Those applications come back to our Oswego office. The address is on there. It's also on our website. And then there'll be interviews set up, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. And also very important is to make sure you apply to the academies as well. It's kind of a dual track process related to our process where we do screen, but the academies are doing a very similar process on a larger scale. So really it's important to, and most students have done this, to be in touch with the academy, do a pre-candidate file to open that with the academy, or at least start your process. Without that, that's going to be difficult. Our committee is going to look at that. They're going to ask you point blank why you haven't. That could be an issue that means you're going to be negatively held against you, but they want to see that you're also going to the academy as well. Next slide, please, Mike. So just a little bit, some common questions I get. So when do we, this a congresswoman sit there, academies? We by law have, if it's not a redistricting year for Congress like last year was, we by law have our nominations in by January 31st. For this year, we January 31st, 2024. The office generally tries to send them down before the holidays just because it's very difficult to schedule around that time for the students. And there is an interview we talked about. The interview is usually 30 minutes long. It's asking about your motivations to serve the military as an officer, why you want to choose this as your post-secondary education. Just some background about what you put in your application, your motivations, as we mentioned earlier, we talked about the Coast Guard Command Academy. The Coast Guard Academy is the only federal academy that does not require a nomination from a congressional source for the vice president. They do it traditionally like a traditional college where they would the admissions office would do the exception for denial. It's still very competitive to get into, and we've had a few students that have gotten there that have also applied for nominations that have gone in, also applied to them and gotten appointments to those academies. Are the requirements the same for all the service academies? Not necessarily. There are some specifics that could be different here and there for each academy, so it's good to be in touch with the website and the local field force or local officers that represent the academy, region, and the area. Letters of recommendation, it's also a question we get a lot about. Who should they come from? As we mentioned, chiefs versus counselors are good for the academic side, employers, coaches, members of clergy, scouts. Really, the only thing I can really stress with these letters is to please make sure it's someone that knows your person. The academy committee they really value these letters because it's another perspective from someone, how they think you may do it in the academy and how you handle yourself character-wise, your personality, that sort of thing, throughout your high school career or after high school and other students. So it really just make sure it's someone that knows you, and is the committee really is going to look at that. Next slide. So common questions. If I apply for multiple academy they might limit to a single nomination. I will say that just there is some information we can have there. Typically, a committee will nominate student to their first choice. Now, the committee can nominate multiple academies if they apply to other academies. That does happen. The committee does that case-by-case basis. We did have a student from the old district of Norman in Oneida County that actually got nominations to the Air Force, Naval, and Military Academy and got offered appointments to all three. So she was an exceptional student. So that does happen. So, but we generally will at least make sure that your top one is nominated. It's a little difficult if we talk later about the numbers and things we might have. When will I know if I've been offered an appointment by an academy? The academies will start, it's kind of not really a set process. They will start usually in early February. By May, you'll know for sure. There are some times where if it's an exceptional student, like such as the one I just mentioned from the old district of Rome, she was informed probably a week or two after the nomination was sent of offers of appointment. So it can happen very quickly. It can happen few months after the nomination. It does not reflect any way on you as a student. If you are nominated and you don't get told right away, you have an appointment or get notified. And really what happens usually, if you are getting a nomination, the congressman will call you personally and send you a certificate and a letter signed by her. And if you're offered an appointment, the academy will tell our office that we're the nomination source, or the congressman nominator rather, about a week or 2 to 3 days before the formal packet is sent to you. So she would send you give you a personal call to give you the good news. Who will assist the congresswoman in the nomination process? We have a Military Service Academy Committee. It's comprised of veterans, educators, academy graduates, community leaders, and actually parents of academy graduates. It's nonpartisan. It's a fair and impartial body that makes recommendations to the congresswoman, and she goes by the recommendation. She does not change that. She wants to make it a fair and impartial process and to make sure that the best from this district are sent forward for the academy to consider. I give a lot of credit to the committee that it's a thoughtful process. They dedicate a lot of time, not just the interviews, but the meeting with the congresswoman to make the recommendations and on their own, because all the copies of the applications that come in are sent to the committee for review. And that takes a lot of time on there. They're very busy individuals, just in their personal and private and business lives. So they really are thoughtful and do take a lot of time. So we appreciate all the work they do to help this process go. How many nominations can a House member or senator make? So each member of Congress, whether you're a member of the House or the Senate, they're only allowed 5 vacancies in each academy. So for our district, we have 12 counties. But for the Senator Gilbert and Senator Schumer, they also have instances where they can only have 5 for the whole state for that. So it's very competitive. For each vacancy, an office can nominate 10 students per vacancy. So it does get a little tight sometimes, especially for the Naval Academy, Military Academy. Those seem to be the more popular academies. Air Force is still also popular. One that you should certainly look into more is the Merchant Marine Academy. It's very competitive. Very interesting academy, has a lot of good attributes, great track record of graduates, and you can actually commission to any branch of the service after going to the Merchant Marine Academy. So it's also something to really focus on. Next slide, please. So if you have any questions, we can certainly reach out to us through our website or call directly to the Spiegel office at 315-266-7088 and ask me. Be happy to talk to you at all. There may be an in-person event next Friday, Syracuse. Well, that's up in the air right now with how things are going in Congress. But so if there is an in-person academy event, we'll get more information out to everyone on that. If you're able to go to that, be happy to talk to you there. I will be there in the office. But I think that's concludes so far right now, Michael. So I think with the slides.
All right. Thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate it. That was a very comprehensive overview of everything, and I learned more. And I've been working with you for quite a bit and learning off of you on this stuff. But even with this, I learned a lot more than I thought, than I had known. So thank you very much, Jason. Thank you for your hard work on this one. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. If there are any wishes to see the slides again, this was recorded and will be shared to the Congresswoman's website at a later date. Feel free to reach out with any questions. And with that, thank you, everybody.